Meh, this new Final Fantasy is kinda boring. They put way too much focus on the realistic graphics. I think I'll just go back to playing some Astral Chain. We opened this week with Sora excitedly weighing on a fireworks display that was going to take place that night, as it was still the middle of the day. Mashio tried to calm her down by suggesting that she try her hand at makeup, but of course, our main hero girl was more interested in doing squats. Well, I'm sure a lot of this prologue wasn't going to play into anything else in this episode later, like the B team debating over how they could best spend their time. Rick Sanchez doesn't try to get a catchphrase over as much as you.
Wubba lubba dub dub! Ricky ticky taffy, yeah!
However, Tsubasa then had the same reaction I have whenever my niece gets her greedy little bits on my toy collection. Elle filled with the mirror pad and ended up opening up a certain app.
Low-hanging, spitting butt sweep!
Wow, already killing off the rest of your team in order to achieve perfect 6-ranger dominance. I can respect the hustle. Our protagonist ended up falling into the labyrinth, but unfairly got the VIP treatment, unlike Yuma. There they met, Kirby?
Welcome! Precureの皆さん!
もしかしてアンダーグ帝国の罠
That's racist.
Actually, this super pig knockoff was Pinkton, the curator of the mirror pad, who was only now being introduced in the latter half of this series. Miss Shamor, this swine is not. That said, since Elle had signed them up for lessons, they need to complete their task in order to leave the mirror pad, or else they wouldn't make it in time for the fireworks. Yeah, kind of goes without saying, this is gonna be a pretty low stakes episode. Still, she at least gave them options for their respective trials, and of course, they each picked activities that they were already doing at the start of the episode, and would have gone with them, but...
自分の前の扉を開けちゃってと
Also, just ignore how each of those doors don't match up with your respective colors. Not too surprisingly, each of them ended up going into the trial of their immediate partner. So Agiha went into Tsubasa's room and vice versa, and Sora went into Mashiro's room and vice versa.
Everybody got that?
And for whatever reason, Tokyo Pig didn't give them a redo and said, screw it, figure it out for yourselves. Yeah, maybe that Undargu theory wasn't that far off. Agiha's Tsubasa trial turned out to be an aviation-themed quiz show, which she seemed to get at first, as most people already know who the Wright brothers are, but wouldn't know how far they flew on their first flight unless they have Google Sensei. Conversely, Tsubasa's trial was Impossible DDR, which is already pretty damn impossible in my opinion. And Sora's trial was to push their product placement, and to be frank, I think she was the most successful of the group and deserved to pass right off the bat.
できました熱血すぎた
What? It's just her Asuka makeup. I mean, she is having a big match at SummerSlam as I'm recording this. Though, I would subtract points for the Joker makeup, as that is way too played out at this point. Lastly, Mashiro's trial was to climb the Tower of Babel. Yeah, better hurry before the events of Linkure Start. As all four struggled with their partners' trials, they each took a minute to reflect on what said partners would do in their situation. This led into what was clearly meant to be the highlight of this episode, with each having a rather touching moment to admire what their partners had brought to this team and how they could emulate them.
もっとノリノリで上げていきますよ
Remember your demo doll training, kid! But yeah, through trial and error, and yet another convenient montage, 3/4 of this team managed to pass their respective tests. And I don't mind this montage, at least as much as last week's, as we are just skimming through stuff that we already know the resolution to, versus something that really should have been fleshed out a lot more with Mashiro's parents visiting. Though on that note, the last member of this team couldn't use any special tricks to climb stairs unless she could take advantage of a glitch in the system. Fortunately, she did have the strongest moral booster.
ソラちゃんさあ一緒に行きましょう
Power Fury confirmed to be the ultimate steroid. And yet again, the A-Team proves their status as the superior duo. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the sequence overall with everyone appreciating the influence that they had on each other, but come on, not only are these two cuter, but they also really had to emulate each other's strong points a lot more. Anyway, with the trials done, Porky was going to let them leave, but I've been saying that a lot this video. This pig is trying to restart 2020, isn't she? Yeah, I guess since the writer couldn't justify Minotone being here, she figured for their requisite fight of the week, they just let Oolong screw up at the last minute to force a fight against their door home. This led to a quick, nothing fight that was just a string of finishers, when all they really needed was a rider that has an AoE Noble Phantasm. With that, they were able to head home, and now you see why I used different names for each of these pigs. And they also made it back just in time for those fireworks.
プリンセスがこれをえみんなのためにって
You say that, and yet where did this receipt from the fruit parlor Kasai come from? And the episode ended with more assurance that this is the only pairing we should really care about. No Cure Black this week to finish up the cameos, which I'm gonna guess they'll save Nagisa for an actual plot episode rather than this fluff. That said, this was a fun team-building episode for this series. It was certainly a different spin on the trapped in the game world scenario for this franchise, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially when they have different goals than just pure entertainment. And I would say for the most part, it accomplished its goals of deepening the bonds between the A and B teams of the show. Now, right off the bat, I'll say that Smile Precure 29 still reigns supreme as the best Trapped in the Game World episode, at least in terms of pure entertainment. I mean, this episode still had some legit laugh-out moments, like Masho's reaction to the tower being my personal favorite. However, the montage in the middle, while okay, did also kind of lower the energy. That said, and while I certainly would have appreciated a few more laughs, especially knowing some of this writer's previous works, comedy wasn't the singular goal of this one, as it was also meant to give each pairing time to learn about the habits of their respective partners. My jokes aside, I did like how Agia actually took a minute to stop being an adult trying to be one of the kids and actually buckled down and studied, while the overly mature Tsubasa took a minute to let loose and act like a kid of his age. It's a subtle message about what true maturity is, which is often being in the middle. You can keep your inner child alive, but you should also recognize when to buckle down and get serious. Meanwhile, Sora and Masho's trials were just about recognizing the strength of their Yuri, automatically making them superior. Nah, but seriously, I do like how the bond between the two managed to keep them pushing forward no matter how far apart they were from each other. I'll also say, I appreciate that they did enforce a monotone appearance, as we've all seen what happens when overusing these villains in this season can do. That said, still forcing a Monster of the Week fight through Pinktone's incompetence is a little eye-rolling, especially for a fairly unremarkable one-off character. The resulting fight was equally unimpressive, but as my rule states, when the rest of the episode is good, I don't mind an underwhelming fight, and this was overall a fun exploration of the A and B teams of the show. It was just good enough that I don't feel like shooting an angry bird at this pig yet. On the subject of games, we recently did something a little different for this channel and started covering a TCG anime with Battle Spirit's Sword Eyes. And I think we got a surprisingly good reception for the first episode review of that series, so do look forward to more reviews featuring the dragons that Sunrise stands like there's no tomorrow. And until next time though, farewell for now my friends, and oh, sweet, they finally released a new DLC for Raincode. Legit, always remember to support the publishers you actually respect.